Hey guys, reading a question here. Is there a point to learning either Java or Kotlin for Android, especially from scratch, in the age of Flutter and RN, ReactNative? Or else, how long do you think native dev will be important as a skill? Well, I think native dev is going to be important for a while. There's nothing to be lost by learning any language. As I said, you can't lose when you learn, even if you don't end up using the technology. I don't write Java anymore. I haven't written Java in many years, but my Java experience and skill sets are super, super, super valuable even to this day. Goes with any language. So you can't lose by learning. So that's one fallacy I'm trying to dispel on YouTube here, is you cannot lose by learning. There's no such thing as learning the wrong language. There's no such thing as learning the wrong framework, because what you're going to see as you become more advanced as a developer, what you're going to see is that all these frameworks, all these languages share many, 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 many things in common. And in fact, when you learn your second framework, or you learn your second and third and fourth language, which will eventually happen, learning the new languages and frameworks are going to make you even more knowledgeable of all the frameworks and languages you learn. So for example, if you learn JavaScript and then Node with maybe, Express.js. So you've learned that stack there, and you develop a couple apps in there, and then you meet somebody who says, well, listen, we have an infrastructure in PHP and Laravel, we need you to do that. And you're like, I don't want to do PHP because I'm a hipster nerd and PHP sucks, even though so many people use PHP. And, oh, look, you're going to pay me that much? Okay, I'm going to learn PHP. So you go, oh boy, I got to learn PHP. But then you jump into PHP, and you go, it's pretty much like JavaScript. Yeah, there's some differences here and there, but, whatever, a function's a function, a method is a method, arrays are arrays, etc. Okay, PHP is a little bit different here, a little bit different here. But, between PHP and JavaScript, it's 90% the same, 85% the same. So it's not much more to learn PHP. Some things you'll hate about PHP versus JavaScript. Some things you go, that's pretty cool what PHP does here. And then you're going to see, oh, look, PHP, they define their functions like this, and then they can, they do this, and this, and this, and this. Oh, that's interesting how they do that versus JavaScript does it like that. Ah, that's interesting. So what happens is by learning PHP, your understanding of JavaScript will increase, because you're going to be able to compare and contrast. Same thing with the framework. So you get Node, you get your Node runtime on the server, and then you say, I'm going to use Express.js, which is the MVC framework, and then you've done that. So then you go, I got to learn Laravel. So you go learn Laravel, which is the PHP's most prominent MVC framework, which is Model View Controller framework. Model View Controller is something called a design pattern. The design pattern is just a way of structuring your code that's agreed upon by the nerd developer community. MVC is probably one of the most important design patterns. It's used in all the major languages, whether it be in environments, whether it be JavaScript, PHP, Laravel, Python, Ruby. They all use PHP. They all use MVC. Anyway, so you've done your Express.js, and you see how that framework is developed, and you jump over to Laravel, kicking and screaming and crying, I hate Laravel, except you're getting paid good money, so you go, I know, I like Laravel. But then you start using Laravel, like one of my new developer came on the game, because we develop with Laravel for Studio Web 4, and he's like, wow, this Laravel's they got some cool stuff here. So by learning Laravel, all of a sudden you're going to have a better understanding of how Express does their stuff, and vice versa. And because you know new Express, and because you knew JavaScript, for you to learn PHP and Laravel is going to be like that. So going back to, is it worth learning Java or Kotlin to do Android development, given you got frameworks like Flutter and ReactNative? You can't lose. At the end of the day, when you're choosing tech stacks, look at the job opportunities in your area, because you may love Flutter, but if there's no jobs, who cares? You may love Kotlin, but if there's no jobs, who cares, right? It doesn't matter. I know some people who love Delphi. People, Delphi is so good. I remember back in the 90s, a friend of mine loved Visual Delphi, and he hated Visual Basic. And at the time, Visual Basic was by far dominant, by far dominant. And he used to complain from a nerd's developer point of view of why Delphi was better than VB. But it didn't matter because nobody wanted to use Delphi. Everybody's using VB, right? So even though he had some legitimate arguments about the technical superiority of Delphi in given certain circumstances, but the market didn't care for whatever reasons. So whenever you're evaluating technology, something I keep hammering home, boom, 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 look at the market. So yeah, you learn Java, you learn Kotlin, you do your Android, boom, 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 and then all of a sudden you find one day there's no jobs. I don't know if that's going to be the case, in all honesty. I know that anecdotally, from what I hear, native development is diminishing because the frameworks, would be ReactNative, Flutter, etc., they're getting better and better and better. Hardware, phone hardware is getting more and more powerful. So all of a sudden the need for the power of native is diminishing, right? You got two things that are making non-native solutions closer and closer in terms of performance and flexibility that you have with native. It's not quite there 100%, but it depends, again, on the use case. If you're developing essentially a text-based app where you're sharing data, maybe a roaming or sales rep type of application where you're just entering in data and stuff like that, scanning barcodes, you could do that very easily with non-native cross-platform solutions, saving a lot of money. But maybe if you're developing a game, it requires that you use all the hardware to maximum efficiency for your app because it's a game and it requires that, then maybe you're going to go native. So if you decide to learn Java and Kotlin because you like it, first thing I would do, start learning it for sure. But then keep your eye on what's the job opportunities with those languages and those, in that environment versus ReactNative versus Flutter, right? And keep your eye on that. And if you find after you learn Java or Kotlin, and you develop some basic apps, you find that for some reason you can't find a job, it's not a waste because then you could easily learn ReactNative, you could easily learn Flutter, and then you're going to go in and you say, I know Flutter, and I've already done some stuff with native, which makes you even more valuable as a developer because you'll be able to write plugins, custom plugins perhaps, because you'll have a deeper understanding of what underlies these frameworks, right? So you can't lose. So I hope that answers that question. This is Code on the Go episode. I'm not doing these while driving because when I'm driving I can't talk to the camera and structure my ideas clearly when I'm driving because I can't crash into people when I'm driving, right? So my attention is split when driving. So I'll be driving around, I'll be filming that, but it's going to be when I actually sit to talk about stuff. When I get into it, I think I'm going to park, make sure that I don't want to run over anybody, you know what I mean? Or smash the car up. All right, that's it, bye.